And if you feel like you need Uncle Sam to be your forced piggy bank to save money, that's one thing. But if you're getting $3,000 back and you have $3,000 in credit card debt, you have $3,000 on your mortgage, you have $3,000 in a student loan, you have $3,000 of Nebraska Furniture Mart you want to pay off, you have $3,000 that you want to give to your kid. Instead, you gave that money to Uncle Sam for free.
Welcome to Upticks with Jake Falcon, founder and CEO of Falcon Wealth Advisors. In this podcast, we help high net worth individuals overcome financial complexities. We do this by enhancing financial literacy and discussing topics in a language free from industry jargon. Join us as we help explain exactly what having a solid financial plan means, as Jake draws from years of experience in helping hundreds of individuals get financially organized and focused on their goals. We hope you find Upticks educational, entertaining, and shareable. Now, on to the show.
Welcome back to Upticks with Jake and Cory. Cory, welcome back to the show.
Jake, thank you for having me.
Anything new on the personal front before we dive into today's episode?
Lots of doctor's appointments recently with my wife, Jake, with the pregnancy, and I am headed to Chicago to see my brother.
Hold on. Got
That's
too much.
new.
You always give me like three things when I ask one question. So
you said what's new?
Tell me about the doctors. Are you annoyed by the medical system in Kansas City as far as babies are concerned, or are you impressed? I'm curious.
I've been impressed. I have been thoroughly impressed. And full transparency, I am one that may like to gripe every now and then about taxes and healthcare and everything else the same way that we all do. I will tell you, though, I have been thoroughly impressed. I have appreciated the fact that it seems clear that, an investment in, there has been an investment in childcare and really birth and delivery.
Hold on. Do you have to wait a while, though, in the lobbies?
No.
That drives me crazy.
Now they operate, functions very well.
Really? So you got an appointment at 11 o'clock, you show up 10:45 and you're in by 11?
Yes. We did a sonogram the other day, Jake, that took 10 minutes.
Nice.
Now, granted, they got what they needed, but they got us in a few minutes before the appointment. Yes, they have the group that we are working with and the OB that's ultimately going to deliver, they really have a great practice ironed out in the sense that they know how to make sure that it runs properly.
That's great. Well, I'm glad to hear that because I'm sure it's exciting, but I'm sure there's a lot of anxiousness and nervousness. I mean, you've got another baby.
Yeah. Each time you go, it's like, hopefully everything's still the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's crazy. So good. I'm glad that's going. All right, tell me about Chicago. You're going to Chicago?
Just for a few nights. I'm flying up there to see my brother. This will be the final trip that I'll be making, I think, before the baby comes. So we're looking forward to just a couple of days of hanging out, having a good time together, and spending some time really just one-on-one with my older brother and I before the baby comes.
So are you going to a Cubs game or anything? You got anything planned? Hockey
No,
game?
Nothing real firm planned.
No? Okay. Cool.
Pretty loose.
We'll have a good time.
On purpose.
You'll have to tell us.
Thank you.
What's that?
I said, we've kept it all pretty loose on purpose as far as plans go. So.
That's dangerous, Cory. When you have no plans, that's when things get out of control. So
no, not us.
Not much on my front. I'm learning the piano. As our listeners will know, it's very difficult. I learned Bella Ciao last night, or I didn't learn it. I tried to play Bella Ciao. Rachel claims she knew that song before we started taking lessons, but like she knew what it was. I don't even think I've ever heard of it. Very difficult song. Very difficult song for me to play. Mm-hmm. I did play my first Falcon Wealth Advisors tour event, so that was awesome. We had our launch at Adams Point, which is actually a really good golf course. I hadn't played there in a long time. I really enjoyed the golf course. It was very windy and very difficult, but I had a good time. So
good.
For our listeners that are local to Kansas City, if you're an amateur golfer and you want to play competitively, it's pretty cool. Falcon Wealth Advisors Tour is managed by Central Links Golf. Feel free to give them a Google search and you can learn more about it. Also, I want to thank all of our listeners and viewers. Our subscriber count, Cory, continues to grow. If you think our show's any good, we'd appreciate a thumbs up or 5-star review. And then please like and share our content. That's how more people get to see it. And again, the whole point of Upticks is to enhance financial literacy. All right, Cory, we had two topics we wanted to talk about before we go into today's articles. Why don't you tee up mine first, please?
Jake, some people don't understand what an ensemble practice means. Can you explain why it's the best thing that you'd ever want in an advisor group, please?
Yeah, good. You like that? I typed that in there, Cory. So again, one of the things that sets us apart from other wealth management practices or firms is that our team of 20 professionals at Falcon Wealth Advisors, we all engage and interact with our clients. Now, some have more impact in a client's lives than others, but I want to make it very clear that we think it is very dangerous for a client to only meet with one person every time they do a review meeting, regardless of who the advisor is, regardless of what you're talking about. Cory, you talked about your pregnancy. I'm assuming there's multiple people involved when you go to the hospital, right?
There are.
You
And
don't
in
just
fact,
see
we're planning for that. Yes.
right. But my point here at Falcon Wealth Advisors, one thing that sets us apart is having multiple financial planners review and look at our clients' financial plans and investments. And the reason we do that, Cory, is we love to have checks and balances. And when clients are making major financial decisions, I feel a whole lot more confident having not only me and you review the plan, but we've got several planners, we've got investment professionals, we've got operations people. Everybody is looking at this stuff, making sure that we are guiding our clients in the direction that our clients want to be guided. And so I just want people to get more comfortable understanding that you may meet with a different planner from time to time. Me and Cory might not be in every meeting, right? You and I don't do the tax planning meetings typically. So again, we're doing that on purpose though, because I'd much rather, Cory, 40 eyes be on a client's financial plan than just 2. And that's why we do it. So again, I really want to encourage our clients to embrace the ensemble makeup. It's good for them. That's why we're doing it. It's good for the client. And 2, if you're not a client of Falcon Wealth Advisors and you are only meeting with the same person every time and you've been doing that for years, I would highly encourage you to get a second opinion or to at least have somebody else at that person's firm look at your stuff. Just because, again, looking at it from a different perspective, there may be an opportunity to enhance your financial plan. All right, good, Cory. That was my soapbox for today. Let's see what you got here from a listener. So thank you for the listener. Cory, can you talk about how to get started in the go-go years? This is coming, Cory, from someone retired for many years that's still figuring out how to launch.
Yes, this was a conversation, Jake, that I had with a client recently, just within the last week or so on the phone. They retired many years ago and we're talking about the go-go years, which they've heard us talk about on the show. Some of the content that we've put out there over the years, really being the first phase of retirement for a lot of people when they're traveling, doing a lot of the stuff that they always dreamed that they wanted to do. This particular client, though, what was really interesting, Jake, is that he retired many years ago and he's like, I'm still trying to figure this out, Cory. I'm still trying to figure out how to launch into doing the things that I wanted to go and do. And it's not that he's discontent. It's not that he's not satisfied. It's just the fact that there's still something that is blocking that from happening. And it's going to be different for everyone because everybody's going to have different goals. But my perspective on it, Jake, is that when you are planning for retirement, an important detail is what you are ultimately going to retire to, which we've talked about on this show. This particular couple was going to relocate to where their family and grandchildren were, and they did. But after that, it's like, okay, now what? In a lot of ways, which is interesting because a lot of people haven't really given a lot of thought to what 30 years of retirement looks like. They might think about year 1 or year 2, but when you're thinking about multiple decades and getting into it, it just requires you to have a good understanding of what's important to you and what you want to do, and then get started doing it.
Yeah, and my advice there, Cory, would be just to get it on the calendar. I think we've talked about this before. Many of our clients, you're right, the go-go years is difficult because they live well within their means. They enjoyed working, and you're right, maybe they move closer to their family or their grandkids or whatever. And now what else, Jake? I have everything that I want.
Yep.
I don't need to go buy, a Maserati, or I don't want to fly on a private jet. But one small piece of advice is just plan it. Whether it's a regional trip to the Ozarks or a fishing trip or a golf trip, or maybe you just take your family on vacation to Oklahoma, I don't know, whatever you want to do. It doesn't need to be this grand thing. Just plan it. Put it on the calendar and plan it. And then as you start to do more of these activities, you will learn what you like and what you don't like. And then you can obviously plan more of what you like and stop doing things you don't like. And that is your go-go years. Your go-go years should be filled with doing things that you enjoy, ideally that are healthy for you, right? Ideally getting outside, being active, go, right? Go on a hike, go for a walk, go fishing, go out and be outdoors, embrace this financial freedom that you have now. But again, I would start with just plan it, put it on the calendar, put it down. June, July, we're going to go do this, and we're going to go see if we like it or not. And then
Yeah,
now you're in the go-go years. You're going.
that's right. That's interesting because, like a lot of people, I'm sure most of our clients too, when their careers began, people are trying a lot of new and different things, learning what works, learning what doesn't work, and you become more of a subject matter expert on whatever it is that your role is. But it's interesting that retirement is completely new and different. So for some people, there are elements of trying things that are new and different, figuring out what you like and figuring out what you don't like, because it is a big change. And you can plan for it. You can plan for it a lot, but until you're living through it, you don't know what that experience is going to be like. We obviously can help coach clients from experience in working with others.
Right.
But the bigger point here is trying new and different things and figuring out what's important to you. But yeah, just getting started, putting it on the calendar, like you said, Jake.
Yeah, good. Thank you for that question. It's a good one. Very popular, very, very common question here.
Right.
Cory, let's do it.
All right, Jake. Americans throw away up to $68 million in coins every year. Here's where it all ends up.
Cory, have you ever thrown away money?
I don't think so. Not intentionally.
Can you believe that? 68 million. Did you read this article?
I did not.
$68 million in coins, Cory.
In the United States every year.
Yes.
Wow.
So there's a company out there called Real World. Wasn't that an MTV show? Real World. Anyways.
It was. Oh, yeah. It probably still is.
They sift through trash is what this company does. Now, this isn't their primary business. I think their primary business is they actually burn trash to generate power or energy. But what they've realized is that since there's all this money in the trash, they sift through it. And they developed, Cory, this complex conveyor belt system that will sort it by metals and then by size and by weight, I guess, or shape. I don't know. It sifts it all down. And then they have employees, going through it and looking for coins, right, on this conveyor belt. And so far, they have found $10 million in coins, of which only $6 million is usable. But hey, they found $6 million in the trash. But did you know this, Cory? Half of all U.S. currency are sitting in people's homes.
That sounds right. That sounds right.
So my next question is, do you have that jar of pennies? You do? You do?
I do.
Now, Do you take it to one of those coin kiosks and turn it in for cash ever, or no?
I have not in a long time.
Yeah. But so it's interesting. So again, a lot of people are sitting in that cash at their home. Now, countries like Canada, New Zealand, and Australia, they have discontinued printing pennies. So my question to you, Cory, is do you think the U.S. should stop making pennies if people are just throwing them away?
That's a good question. If that's what's just happening to them, I suppose it's a consideration.
And this thing had a chart, which I don't like charts, Cory. You know that. And Luke, don't feel like you need to put the chart up here. But I think it's something, I think if I'm getting this right, Cory, and don't quote me on this, but I think it's something like it costs 3 cents to make a penny.
Interesting.
It costs more than a penny's worth to make it. So so you didn't know that until I just shared that. So my argument is yes, the U.S. should stop making pennies. You're losing money. Like if you and I were making widgets here, Cory, and it cost us more money to make the widget than it was worth, we wouldn't make it. You go to business.
We would not have a business for long.
So I have just solved the deficit problem in America. Stop printing pennies.
There it is.
So
that's simple.
Credit to me. I just solved the deficit problem in America. Stop making pennies.
Have you ever thrown money away, Jake?
No, I don't know. Well, I think a lot of it's on accident, of course, maybe. But me personally, I don't think so, Cory. And it's not because I'm a tightwad. I just think it's irresponsible. Like
to throw it away? Yes, it is.
Why would you do that? Why would you, when you know this has value? I know a quarter is worth 25 cents. I know that. Why would I throw that away? So no. And I don't deal much in change though. Like I do carry cash, but normally when I'm transacting business with cash, it's normally in the form of a tip. And so I don't get money back. So I don't get a lot of change anymore. just like most people, I'm using a card for most everything. But I do carry cash, but I normally, again, it's for tipping. I like to tip in cash.
And
So
I'm the same way. But if I end up with coins, they go in my pocket and then they go in the bucket when I'm home. Better than throwing them away.
Right. One other quick note I wanted to make, which was really cool in this article, is that this couple, Cory, they made their entry to their home. They made the flooring out of pennies, and they did this like cool geometric design, but it looked awesome. So I thought that was a really cool way for an entryway. And I guess I don't know if they did it a video or something. I didn't see it, but you could throw pennies on the floor and you couldn't see them. Like that's how many pennies were.
Wow.
But it's pretty cool that they did that. So again, at least they made art out of it rather than just throwing them away. But again, I thought that was a pretty cool article, something interesting to think about. And, a little fun fact there that millions of dollars get thrown away a year. Good for this real world, though. I mean, they made $6 million.
Just I have a quick call to action for anybody watching or listening to the show, Jake, and that would be to stop throwing money away.
Right.
Even if it's pennies, hang on to them.
Good. It all adds up. I agree. All right, Cory, here we go. The next one. I messed up my taxes. How long does the IRS have to fine me?
This was an interesting article. The short answer is it depends. Depending upon how you messed those taxes up. The statute of limitations can be anywhere from 3 years to forever, depending upon what occurred. So what I found really fascinating about this, Jake, there was a former IRS senior trial attorney who was quoted in this article who said, often the best approach, this is what he said, often the best approach is not to correct past mistakes, but to instead stop making them in the future. The bottom line, though, from all of this is that if you file your taxes on time and you pay when you owe and you plan accordingly, it really shouldn't be an issue. The right course of action, if a mistake has been made, because mistakes do happen, will depend. And that's going to be a conversation that you should have with your tax professional. And if you don't have one, it just raises the question of how do you plan to handle a mistake that you make on your tax return if you're filing it yourself, regardless of the innocence involved.
Do you find it a little weird that it's so difficult to file your taxes?
Yes, I find it very strange. And I think it's complicated by design personally.
But you would think that if we had our own country, Cory, and I needed tax dollars to operate that country, wouldn't you want to make collecting those dollars and people paying those dollars as simple as possible?
I would, but it might be more entertaining to say you need to pay taxes, but we're not going to tell you how much. But if you get it wrong, you're going to be in trouble. I mean, that really is what the tax code feels like.
Now, doesn't the IRS have this? I think this was one of the articles. Don't they have some new free file form? And I don't know.
Yes, and this was the first year that it was available, and I think something like 10 to 12 million people used it. But the pilot was only in a couple of states. But the IRS is ultimately trying to get people to file their taxes directly with the IRS at zero cost.
Which I think makes a lot of sense, especially for people with simple returns that are somewhat savvy. I just wish it were easier, right? I mean, my accountant does a great job, but it seems weird to me that it's always like in round numbers what I pay. Like, shouldn't it be more precise? I don't know.
You would think. Or you would think that if copies of every tax document that you and I, Jake, and everyone else, copies of all the documents that we file are sent to the IRS, theoretically, the IRS could just prepare returns and tell people what they owe.
Right. That would be ideal. Like, just send me a bill.
They're getting all the information, and then we need to match up the information they're getting on the tax return. Anyway.
And you gotta believe so many people get this wrong. And I'm not.
Yes.
I mean, so many.
A lot of times it's innocent. It is.
Yeah. I'm not saying everybody out there is trying to steal from the government. I'm just saying it's a very complex, and I don't want to discount an accountant, but you're right. If the IRS just said, hey, we know what happened in your banking or your employment, your wages, dividends, interest, we know it all. Here's what you owe us. Anyways, I don't digress. All right,
I guess the final point I just want to make real quickly here, though, Jake, is that if a former IRS senior trial attorney is quoted saying oftentimes the best thing to do is just stop making mistakes and don't worry about correcting the ones that you've already made, it just raises the question of what are we doing?
Right.
But I digress.
Yeah.
All right, Jake, when can I collect Social Security, which is retirement's biggest gamble?
Yeah, we talked about this a lot, Corey. I thought this article shared something a little bit different, though, that I wanted to bring up. So, for our audience, it's very complicated because you're dealing with a large unknown. You can collect Social Security as early as 62, and you can delay it as late as 70. I mean, you could delay it later than that, Corey, I guess, but you get no benefit from delaying it. And then everybody has what's called a full retirement age. That's based on when you were born, 66, 67, somewhere in that range. So clients ask us this all the time is, Corey, when should I turn it on? And, again, it's based on income or cash flow needs. And then also life expectancy. How long are you going to live? And legacy. How much do you want to leave your kids or family or not? And so because all of those variables are tough to really pin down, particularly life expectancy is an unknown, we can't just tell a client when to do it. Like we can't say, Corey, for you need to take Social Security at 64. I know that's going to be best for your plan. It doesn't work that way. But what I thought was interesting, Corey, and you probably know this, but I want to ask you, did you know if you turn Social Security on, let's say at 63, that you can actually change your mind after you've done it? Did you know that?
Yes, I talked to a client about it yesterday, Jake. No joke.
Good. So I want to hear about that, but just so to share with our audience, there's basically two opportunities to change your mind after you start Social Security. One, if you claim early, so this is earlier than your full retirement age, this article says, you have up to 12 months to withdraw, quote unquote, withdraw your application and cancel your payments. Now you need to repay all the money you received, as well as any premiums that were withheld if you were getting Medicare or taxes, but you won't incur any interest charges. When they do that, they wipe the slate clean, is what this person's quoted in the article saying. You could do that once in your life, and then you can start over with a different strategy at a different age. Now, Corey, if you claim Social Security at your full retirement age, you can later decide to pause your payments to earn delayed retirement credits. To do so, you need to apply for a suspension of benefits, is what it's called. In this case, the Social Security Administration will automatically restart your payouts at the higher amount the month after you turn 70, unless you reinstate benefits earlier. So again, it's not a simple transaction, but you can do it. I would lean on us at Falcon Wealth Advisors, and I would make sure you're having open conversations with Social Security if you need to do this. But Corey, what was your experience real quick?
Client is turning 62 later this year, asked me the question, should I turn on Social Security? And we had a conversation about what the plan assumed. And we also had a conversation about the reasons perhaps that someone would delay it beyond that in their situation who was already retired. But I did explain, because I've had experience with other clients that have actually taken advantage of this in the past, where they have filed for their benefits before their full retirement age, but something changed their circumstances in the next couple of months, and they basically withdrew the application, paid back what they received, and then they could start over fresh later.
Got it. Good. All right, perfect, Corey. Let's go on to the next one. Biden administration unveils new rule to protect retirement savers from bad advice.
Did you read this, Jake, yesterday when this news came out?
No, I didn't. Yeah. What happened?
So the Department of Labor, so the long story short, the final rule around fiduciary advisors and retirement accounts was unveiled yesterday by the Biden administration. And this is really them picking up what the Obama administration began back in 2010. And really what this is all about is the standard in which advisors are held that are managing money for clients. And there's a suitability rule, there's a fiduciary rule. Ultimately, fiduciary is what's requiring someone to act in their client's best interest. And the spirit, I think, of this is to make that more applicable on more assets for more advisors and more clients. And the root of it, though, Jake, is 401k rollovers and investment products. Specifically, annuities were called out multiple times in this article, which I found interesting. But consumers, what I wanted to just comment around this, Jake, and also hear what your thoughts were, is that consumers and advisors don't have to wait until proposed legislation is passed to do the right thing, which I think seemed obvious to you and I many years ago in terms of acting as fiduciaries as our clients. It's what we want to do. It's what we know that our clients expect of us. But I did want to just bring this to the surface because there's been a lot of conversation about this the last 10 to 15 years. And it just resurfaced yesterday. And we'll find out, I'm sure, between now and September when it's supposed to go in effect, whether or not there's going to be any legal challenges to it.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. I think an advisor shouldn't be forced to act in their client's best interest.
Right?
I'm usually not for bigger government. I think
Right?
what I wish, did they say anything in the article, Corey, about changing titles of advisors who are not acting as fiduciaries? I think that is what really needs to happen, believe it or not, because I don't think they're going to be able to really get anything passed to force people to be fiduciaries. But I think if they could just say your title needs to be, like, for example, an advisor maybe is a fiduciary and a broker is a salesperson. So then, because there's the problem, the consumer doesn't get all our jargon
Right.
and mumbo jumbo of this industry. And it's very confusing if you're not inside the ropes like you and I are. I mean, to us, it's very obvious and easy. And we work hard to explain that to our clients. But for the average typical person, they don't understand fiduciary and all that. They don't know what that means. They
And
just
even if
like
they
the
do
guy.
know what it means, how it's applied to their situation is a whole
Right.
nother conversation.
They typically just go with an advisor that they like and trust, and they don't really know how that advisor's acting in what capacity, the guy or girl that's giving him advice. And so I applaud them for trying, but I think that they really need to just change the titles. And I think that would solve a lot, actually.
Yeah, and it's, consumers, and part of why we want to enhance financial literacy, Jake, and why we record this show is to help people become aware of these things, because a lot of it is,
Right.
it is consumers. And I'm not saying it's on the consumers, but I'm just saying for individuals that are hiring advisors, there's a lot of resources out there to help you make a good informed decision.
Right.
But evidently, the government in the current administration and a prior administration felt like this was an issue, and it's something that they brought back to the forefront. But the last time this happened, there were legal challenges that slowed it all down, and we'll find out if that's what happens this go round. But because naturally, there's a lot of businesses that are impacted by this, and they want to keep things the way they are.
Right. Good. All right, Corey, we got time for one more.
All right, Jake, you shouldn't be so happy about your tax refund. Why? Here's why.
Yeah, so here's a good one for you, Corey. As of early April, the IRS refunded about $200 billion to individual taxpayers, with the average refund being $3,011, up 4.6% from a year ago. That's essentially a $200 billion interest-free loan for the government that people are doing, Corey. That's
Yeah,
very
we're
nice.
loaning our money to the government for free. We're throwing it in the trash. Come on, let's pull it together here.
Right. It's very nice of taxpayers, but many, Corey, would have been better off if they had been able to use the money during the year themselves. So I think we've talked about this again at the show. And if you feel like you need Uncle Sam to be your forced piggy bank to save money, that's one thing. But if you're getting $3,000 back, and you have $3,000 in credit card debt, you have $3,000 on your mortgage, you have $3,000 in a student loan, you have $3,000 of Nebraska Furniture Mart you want to pay off, you have $3,000 that you want to give to your kid. Instead, you gave that money to Uncle Sam for free, no interest, and got it paid back to you. So again, I get it. It feels like a windfall. We've talked about this, Corey. It feels like a windfall when you get a tax refund, but you have to put it into context that you're giving. So whether you like the president or don't, just think of it that way. Let's say you don't like Biden. Well, you just gave Biden $3,000 interest-free loan, right? Maybe you love Biden, but you don't like that our country's in debt. Well, you just let them borrow your money for $3,000 and misspend it or use it for unwisely or whatever. However you want to think about it. And I think you had a really good point in one of our previous episodes, Corey, is that, okay, you got a refund. Let's change whatever the heck's going on now so it doesn't happen again. Don't wait. So if you're doing withholding on your Social Security, your paycheck, or your IRA distributions, or you're making quarterly estimates, let's make an adjustment now so you don't have that big refund next year. Have you thoughts on this?
That's absolutely right. I appreciated, just yesterday, I received an email from a client who said, look, I don't agree with how the government is probably going to spend the money that I pay in taxes, but I would still rather pay the money in taxes than have to deal with what I dealt with in April in terms of a tax surprise, which I think is a good perspective to have, frankly, in terms of paying your fair share, whether or not you inherently agree with all of it. But it dawned on me while we're talking about this, Jake, we talked earlier today about how complex the tax code is and the process of filing returns are. Maybe that is so we keep giving the government $200 billion a year in interest-free loans. Maybe it's also complicated on purpose.
Conspiracy there. Who knows, Cory?
Just a thought.
Maybe.
It wouldn't happen if they filed our returns for us, right?
All right. I don't know, but we just want to bring awareness. We are here to enhance financial literacy. So hopefully you got some of that from today's episode. Thank you again, Cory, as always, for joining me.
Of course.
Email luke@falconwealthadvisors.com if you have any more questions or topics that you want Cory and I to discuss or debate on Upticks. And we hope all of you out there have a great week.
Thank you for listening to Upticks. Click the subscribe button to be notified when new episodes become available. Also, be sure to visit our website, falconwealthadvisors.com, and click the Contact Us button if you'd like to meet with Jake and his team.